There is a lot of water on Mars, and there once was a lot of surface flowing water. You don't see it because most of it is mixed with the soil, which we call regolith on Mars, so the Martian soil can be anywhere from as little as 1% in some very dry desert-like areas to as much as 60% water. So, one strategy for getting water when you're on Mars is to break up the regolith, which would take something like a jackhammer because it's very cold, it's very frozen. If you can imagine making a frozen brick or a chunk of ice that's mostly soil and maybe half water and half soil, that's what you would be dealing with. So, you need to break this up, put it in an oven. As it heats up, it turns to steam.
The primary obstacle to good thinking is not a cramped desk or an uninteresting horizon. It is, first and foremost, anxiety. Often the most profound thoughts we need to grapple with have a potentially disturbing character. As these potential implications start to come vaguely into view, our inner censor, motivated by a desire for calm rather than growth, gets alarmed. A vigilant part of the self gets agitated, it distracts us, it makes us feel tired or gives us a strong need to go online. Skillfully, it confuses and muddles our train of thought. It blocks the progress we were starting to make towards ideas that, though important and interesting, also presented marked threats to short-term inner peace.
One of the questions I guessed a lot is, how do we get good local government, good bureaucracy, and how do we see these positive changes come forward? And it's interesting because a lot of the time we pay attention to the pioneers, the people coming with new ideas, or sometimes we pay attention to the big bosses, the politicians, or the big civil servants, but it seems to me the really important people in seeing kind of widespread change are people like Morak. Morak is a manager for a council called North Funnish Council, it's in Scotland. And what Morak has done for many years now is constantly work away with her colleagues to figure out how do we keep making the system better. When they see somebody in the vein, they think what we can learn from them, what we can bring to our council.
Are you a chocolate lover? Even true chocoholics might not know what their favorite treat has in common with yogurt, cheese, and wine. Its flavors come from fermentation. Fermentation is the process of improving a food through the controlled activity of microbes. The food you know as chocolate starts its life as the seeds of football-shaped fruit. Farmers scoop out the seeds and pulp into piles or boxes. The seeds are now called cacao beans. They ferment for about a week before they're dried, roasted, and crushed with sugar until smooth and ready to eat. Let's go back to that fermentation step. Cacao fermentation is a multi-stage process. The first stage involves yeast. Just like the yeast in your beer, yeast in a cacao fermentation produces alcohol by digesting the sugary pulp around the beans.
It's in this context that the shower emerges as so helpful to the way our minds work and earns the right to be honored as one of the best places on earth in which to do any kind of serious reflection. Amidst the crashing water and the steam, and with a few minutes of respite before the day starts, the mind is no longer on guard. We're not supposed to be doing much inside our heads, we're mainly occupied with trying to soap our backs and properly rinse our hair. The ideas that have been half-forming at the back of our minds, ideas about what the true purpose of our lives might be and what we should do next, keep up their steady inward pressure, but now there is a lot less to stop them reaching full consciousness.
Looking out of a window, you can determine the current season based on the visible natural elements. This practice of observing biological events in relation to seasonal and climate changes is known as phenology. By examining the leaves of a tree or plant and assessing the qualities of sunlight outside, you can deduce the season. Phenology has been utilized by humans since ancient times. For example, noticing daffodil buds pushing through the snow indicates the arrival of spring, while witnessing leaves transition from green to red and observing migrating birds signals the onset of autumn. The term phenology originates from the Greek words pheno, meaning to show or appear, and logos, meaning to study.